Welcome back to Elevation Perspective. My name is Mark. Some news in Major League Baseball today. One, Roki Sasaki has chosen his team. And two, the Mets are now operating under the assumption that Pete Alonso will not be with their team going forward. Let's break it down. First off here, the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes has finally come to a conclusion. On Friday night on his Instagram, Sasaki announced he will be a Los Angeles Dodger. I think what's most frustrating here for the baseball fan, it's not even just the Dodgers getting another elite talent here, it's how the whole process played out. From the very get-go, everyone kind of believed this player was destined for the Dodgers, but he kind of played the game. He met with all these teams, of course, the Mets, the Yankees, the Rangers, the Cubs, the Blue Jays, the Padres, and sure, he was probably doing his due diligence, but it felt like to the whole baseball world he was always destined for the Dodgers. Then you run this sweepstakes of sorts where you're eliminating teams one by one. It was kind of a whole theatrical event this week. Teams are getting eliminated by the 10 minutes or so. A beat writer would show up for their respective team and say, Roki Sasaki has informed the team they are now out, leaving it just to the Blue Jays, Padres, and Dodgers going into Thursday. And then ultimately, Sasaki just goes to the Dodgers. After all of that, there are a lot of reports out there that he was really close with Yu Darvish, saw him as a mentor of sorts. That, of course, did not matter in the end. I know the Blue Jays went out there and traded for Miles Straw, a lot of dead money there just to get some more international free agent money that, of course, did not work for them. So I think the whole process is just a little bit frustrating. And I feel like Sasaki probably should have went straight up to all these teams and said, listen, I'm going to the Dodgers. Maybe he didn't do that because of possible penalties to him or the Dodgers. Me personally, I think this was probably verbally agreed upon months ago. I know that's kind of like a conspiracy theorist thing to say there, but the Dodgers kind of have a really great grasp on this market now with Ohtani, with Yamamoto, and now with Sasaki. I think this was always destined to happen, and the way it kind of went down, I think it kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. The top five in the Dodgers rotation now looks like Shohei Ohtani, Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and Roki Sasaki. The craziest part is the Dodgers, of course, won the World Series last year, and only Yamamoto of this group pitched in the playoffs. So pretty crazy, pretty scary there, but the Dodgers get even better today with Roki Sasaki. Our next order of business here is between the Mets and Pete Alonso. The Pete Alonso free agency saga may be coming to an end in the near future, and it's probably not going to be with the New York Mets. It was reported about 1 week ago that Pete Alonso and Scott Boras came to the New York Mets and offered them a 3-year deal with opt-outs. When I saw that, I was like, okay, makes a ton of sense. The Mets and Pete will figure this out. Pete, of course, came down from that 5 or 7 year, whatever his initial asking price was, down to this 3-year deal. Makes a ton of sense. But then it was reported that there was still a big gap in the financials, so the Mets were not okay giving him this big deal, whatever it might have been. The financials of that offer that Pete Alonso and Scott Boras gave the Mets was never disclosed, but a few days ago, Joel Sherman tweeted out that the Mets offered Pete something in the realm of a 3-year, $70 million deal. So just theorizing here, when I see a big financial gap in what the Mets offered in the 370 realm, I'm thinking the offer to the Mets from Pete and Scott was probably 3 years, 100 million, 3 years, 90 million, so definitely a sizable gap there. So the Mets are definitely playing some hardball here. They went to Pete Alonso and said, listen, this is what we think you're worth, 3 years, $70 million, but we have to continue our offseason with or without you. So we'd love to have you back at this number, but if not, we have to move on. So right after that reported take it or leave it kind of deal the Mets gave Pete Alonso, they then re-signed Jesse Winker to a 1-year, $8 million deal, prompting this tweet from Andy Martino. The Mets have pivoted to Plan B post-Alonso. They now consider it the most likely outcome that Alonso will sign elsewhere. They add Winker and will add a reliever, possibly a top one. Then today, on Friday, January 17th, they brought in A.J. Minter, a really quality lefty reliever, on a 2-year, $22 million deal. The current 2025 projected lineup for the Mets looks like Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Nimmo, Winker, Alvarez, McNeil, Siri, and Beatty. The lineup does feel a little bit light here. Definitely could use one more bat, but you have to factor in as well. This is basically the same lineup that just went to the National League Championship Series, just subtracting Pete Alonso and adding Juan Soto. Of course, Lindor and Soto at the top are MVP caliber superstar players. Vientos looked like a rising star last year. I think Nimmo and Winker are both solid. Then it gets to about the 6th spot in this lineup with Francisco Alvarez. Definitely need Alvarez and Beatty, the younger guys on this team, to kind of take that next step offensively. McNeil maybe reverting back to his batting title ways, and Jose Siri is really just a defensive guy. But I can see this lineup being fine, but definitely think they could probably use one more batter. Then what happens to Pete Alonso? If the Mets are out, who is in? The big team now is the Blue Jays, who are reportedly hot and heavy on Pete. They, of course, seem to be on every single guy and lose out on pretty much every single guy. But If there's no one else left, maybe Pete in Toronto work this out, figure it out. I'm very intrigued to see what kind of offer, what kind of deal he signs here with the Blue Jays, with whoever signs Pete. It's very interesting. It really is starting to get late now. We are in mid-January, January 17th at the time of this recording. Some big free agents still out there, the likes of Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, Anthony Santander, Tanner Scott, and a whole bunch of second-tier free agents as well. Definitely have to get this ball rolling and soon. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching.